Has this ever happened to you?
Man, I can't believe I have to get a translation and a sequel to Dune. This website is no help at all. It's making me sweat.
You should be able to represent some of this information in Mark, but it can be difficult to find translations and sequels in the catalog.
What do you mean system error? Come on, it should be easier than this.
But now we have Bang, Bibliographic Access, newly GUI'd. With Bang, you can more easily find what you're looking for. Translations, adaptations, sequels, other copies.
Wow, this is really great. I can find sequels, translations, all in one spot. And I'm dry.
That's right. But wait, there's more. If you call now, you can get Bang at your library for just 4 easy installments of $0. And like ShamWow, this special technology was made in Germany.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But call now for this special offer.
Operators are standing by.
In this demo, we will show what we have done to represent relationships between different works and relationships between works and instances in Sinopia, and how we are using that information to aid in discovery in the library catalog. First, we will explain how we can find information in the library catalog right now as it stands in production. And then we will demonstrate the prototype we have built and explain how we are using information about how works are related to represent related resources in the interface. So first, let's take a look at this item in the catalog representing Dune, written by Frank Herbert. If we are looking at this page, we can see that we have information about the author, format, and language, availability information at the right, in the right column, and we can also see a section that designates other forms of this work, which means that there are other copies of Dune that were perhaps published at different times that are also available in the library. And clicking on this link leads us to this page where we can see this list. And we can also have some facets for language. In this case, all of the ones that are under other forms of this work are in English and format. If we wanted to see what sequel comes after this book, we can see that there is some information in the notes section, and we could perhaps search for that in the catalog using the title. But this information is not always present. And so we don't necessarily always have a good way to immediately get to the sequel for this book. If we wanted to find information about other sequels or translations or adaptations, we could do a search in the library catalog using the keyword. The results for the keyword search may or may not be the specific book that we're looking for, but it would give us a way, for instance, immediately to see that there is a movie that is based on Dune that's available. And it could also provide us language options, so we could see if there is a specific translation that we could find. So in this case, we actually know that there is already a Thai translation for Dune, and we could use the facets to go to that book. But if you can see, when we select Thai, the very first item is the Thai translation, while the rest are not actually related to the book Dune we're looking for, even though they are results for the keyword search. So in this way, we can see that there are possibilities for finding the resources we might be interested in when it comes to translations, adaptations, and sequels, but they are not necessarily easy to get to. Now we will show our prototype. So in this prototype, in the top part of the page, we've rearranged some of the fields so that the top fields correspond to work information. And by work, I mean Bitframe work, And the rest of the fields are then showing instance information below. We still have the availability section exactly where it was, but instead of having an other forms of this work section, we have an other copies section, which shows the other copies of this work that are available. And you can see a little bit of information about each of these and which of these, for instance, is online. We're also showing a list of all the sequels. So it's very easy now from this list to see what the sequels are and in what order for this item. If we want to learn more about this work, including other works that are related, we can click on Explore Adaptations, Translations, and More, which brings us to a page that provides a description from DBpedia, some of the same fields on author, language, and subject. In other words, work level fields that we saw on the previous page. Here we can still see the copies, other copies of Dune, or all the copies of Dune that we have in the library, a list of all the sequels that we have. And we can also see translations, adaptations, works that are specifically about this work and items that correspond to that, and other publications by Frank Herbert. On this page, we can see on this page, we can see a DBpedia description that's being brought back for this work. Work level fields such as author, language, and subject, which we've taken from the preceding item page. We can still see all the copies of this work that are available in the library, the sequels list. And in addition to that, we can clearly see the translations that are related to this work. So this is the Thai translation of Dune that we have in the library catalog. Adaptations, such as this movie adaptation of this work. Items about Dune. So this is a work that is specifically has this work as a subject, and we can find the related library catalog items and represent those in this list. And other items that have been authored by the same author. And if we want to look at a full list, we can click on this button here, which will take us to the full list of items by Frank Herbert that are in the library catalog. In this way, we brought together different facets of information about the work itself, as well as relationships to other works, such as translations, sequels, adaptations, and works that are about this work. And we've used this information to display these library catalog resources. Next, we'll talk about how we modeled this information in Sinopia and how the library catalog is using that information. First, let's try to understand how Bitframe relationships map to the catalog. On the left, you see a Bitframe work that has an instance, which also has an item. If we try to translate that into the library catalog, what does that mean? If we think about each record in our catalog corresponding to an instance, we can then try to map the information that we have in a Bitframe model to the resulting library catalog records. So what we did is we represented information about the Dune work and then represented information about the multiple instances of that work that we have in the catalog. And we represented that using Bitframe works and Bitframe instances in Sinopia. And for each of the Bitframe instances, we were sure to capture identifiers that we could then use to query the catalog to find the equivalent catalog record. So you can see how in this model, the instances on the top are mapping to individual catalog records on the bottom. This picture shows how we are using Bitframe to represent relationships between works and then using that information to look up catalog records. So at the very top, we have the main Dune work that we've used for this prototype example. On the bottom, or directly underneath, we have works that are related to the main Dune work. So we have a movie adaptation, we have a translation, and we have a sequel. And each of these works has an instance that then has identifiers that we can use to look up the catalog, or in the movie instance, has a uniform title we can use to look up the direct resource in the catalog. How are we able to navigate to those relationships that we've represented in Sinopia from a catalog record? If we go to the librarian view for this item, in the 758 field, we've encoded that this particular catalog record corresponds to an instance of this work that is modeled in Sinopia. Let's take a look at that record in Sinopia, both in the interface, in the Sinopia UI, and as JSON. In the Sinopia interface, if we search for Dune, we can find the resources that we've modeled there. This one corresponds to the main work that we're looking at. If we were to open this up, we could see the information that we have encoded using this particular resource template, including information like the primary contributor, the title, and here, the related works. So you can see the translation here, the sequel, works about this work, and the motion picture. And below, you can see the instances that correspond to the different catalog records for the copies of Dune that are in the catalog. This URI is the same that is represented in our mark in order to connect our library catalog record to this information that we've modeled. And if we were to open up that URI, we can then see that that includes a JSON LD representation of the various relationships that we're interested in, such as movie adaptations, translation, and sequels. In this way, our prototype is able to bring back the information encoded in Sinopia using the Sinopia URI.